Happy Halloween, everyone! Airborne back with an ominously unexpected deck profile for you during our extended BT5 format. This one is a fun idea I put off for quite some time that I like to call Dandevi Rush. The basic premise of this deck is that you're constantly jamming weaker, lower-level Devimon at your opponent's security, while quickly building names in your trash to cheat out Dandevimon. This deck runs 18 rookies, 16 champions, and 10 security effects that can potentially land you a counter-lethal that your opponent may not expect. It's also running some unorthodox cards in the champion slot to optimize swinging potential, so you can use cards like Demonic Disaster to provide a little burst. And don't worry, you may be surprised to see not a single ultimate in this list, especially Lady Devimon, but I assure you that there are plenty of Devimon targets in this deck list, with 28 compared to the average 26 to 27. So let's go ahead with the deck list. Alright, starting off, let me fix my math. You may notice my desk is a lot cleaner than it normally is. I finally got around to organizing. Another thing to make things a little ominous. We're starting out with the babies. We have 4 Demimera and 1 starter deck Pagumon. The Demimeras are an absolute staple for purple. They're one of the reasons why purple is able to keep up with the meta continuously set after set, because this card is amazing. On deletion, draw 1 card, then trash 1 from your hand. And we're running 1 Pagumon from the starter deck as an additional baby because we want to try to load up the names in our trash, try to get that Dandevi effect going. Alright, let's start off with the 18 rookies. We have 4 of the power-up promo Devimon, 4 of the tournament pack 1 Devimon, 4 vanilla Devimon from BT2, or 1.0 for us, 4 of the starter deck Devimon, and 2 of the BT2 Gabumon. So starting off with the Devimon that we have from the power-up promo pack, you have to run Dandevi with it. That's the whole reason why Dandevi works in this deck. Otherwise, we would just be hard playing Dandevimon for 12 memory. That makes absolutely no sense in a rookie champion rush aggro deck. Next up, we have the Demi-Devis that on play trash the top 2 cards of your deck from the Tournament Pack 1. Also a fantastic card to be running in your Dandevi deck. It can start to sort of get phased out later on, or when you're starting to mix other engines in it, like the Chaos Gallant engine or anything else we might see in BT6 or BT7. But right now, it is a fantastic staple. It allows you to just hard play it and be able to get those top 2 trashes, get you 2 steps closer potentially to your Dandevimon installment, and be able to actually make these Demi-Devis an absolute terror when they are Digivolved. Then we have the 2-drop vanilla Demi-Devis. These are pretty straightforward. They're both 2 drops, being able to, when your opponent puts you at 1 memory, you can choke them back. The 4K is really nice. There's actually a lot of times where, even though 5K is generally the ideal threshold for rookies when swinging into security, 4K, this one survives way more than it should, sometimes even when you don't want it to. But nevertheless, keeping bodies on board requires your opponent to actually answer them, and also that you are able to fuel them with your 1-cost options like Deathclaw and Demonic Disaster. And the Demi-Devi 3K, obviously 2-drop, free to Digivolve, very important. Lastly, we have 2 BT2 Gabumon. I would love to get this up to 3 or 4, but the deck space is kind of tight. I'm looking, if I'm going to continue with editing this deck, I would probably take it out of the champion slot and have a little more leeway with the rookies, but the Gabumon is fantastic. Being able to start out with this, if you have this in your starting hand, it's fantastic. Just being able to Digivolve in the raising area and then Digivolve up to a 1-cost like Kimeramon, or even the blocker and swing to lose the 2 memory. Just being able to get its on deletion effect is very important. It helps you fuel your hand, set up, get the Dandevi in trash if you need to, etc. So that's it for the rookies. Next up, we have the champions. Like I said, we have 16 of these guys. We have 4 of the Retaliation Devimon from BT2. 4 of the Blocker Devimon, as weird as that sounds for a rush deck, from the starter deck. 3 Dobermon from BT4. 3 Musyamon from BT5. and 2 Kimeramon from BT3, or 1.5. So, the Dandevimon is straightforward. It has Devimon in the name. Retaliation is a fantastic card that allows you to crash into your opponent's Digimon or force a block out of certain situations, being able to take advantage of suspended Digimon so that you can still maintain a high tempo. And if you have a power-up promo Devi underneath, you're able to get a Dandevi to replace it immediately, which is fantastic. And also, a lot of people get scared of attacking into this thing if it manages to live, or if you swing it with the rookie, it lives, Digivolve into the Devimon at the end of your turn to make them reconsider if they want to attack over it to, control the board of it. Then we have the 4-cost Devimon blocker. It has Devimon in the name. It's a blocker. A lot of times this is actually a great card to end up ditching from your hand in order to fuel your names in trash. But a lot of times you don't really feel too bad about swinging and losing the 2 memory. A lot of times you just want it to die, get the on-deletion effects that are underneath it with the Demimeras and the Devimons, and sometimes even just delete it as cost for Deathclaw or Demonic Disaster. Next up we have Dobermon. This is probably my favorite champion in the deck. Dobermon is a 7k attacking champion, which is abnormally high for champions. It attacks over any 6k blocker, so Mechanorimon, Vilemon, Cordramon, Grizzlymon, etc. Not many 7k blockers out there. Cherrymon is an ultimate that's a 7k blocker, so that's huge. Same with Andromon. Being able to attack with 7k, there is generally a very high chance that it'll actually live in security, because since generally ultimates you only see about 7 to 9, sometimes 10 if you're looking at like a Shoutmon deck in security, and even then they could have Groundramons like 6k ultimates, or ultimates are higher. There's generally a very high chance, maybe sometimes a 1 in 3, 1 in 4 chance that the card that's actually revealed is an ultimate or a mega, and obviously those chances get even higher if you see some of those cards actually pop up periodically during your opponent's when you're playing against your opponent. So it's also a very great target for Demonic Disaster in a situation where you need something to live so that you can restand it by popping one of your other Digimon. Then we have Beelzemon, who has jamming. He is basically the same thing as Dobermon for me. The only difference is that he can't swing over a blocker. If there's a 5k blocker on board even, it feels kind of bad to swing. They're going to be tempted to block every time, but sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes you need to bait out that block. Most importantly, he has jamming, and he is a 4-cost hard play, so in the situations where, believe it or not, it's pretty common to actually end up seeing a situation where you actually don't have any rookies. Hard playing a Beelzemon does not feel bad, especially when they choke you at 1 and they have a memory tamer on board. Feels great. Like I said, fantastic target for Demonic Disaster, etc. He lives. You can utilize him further. Lastly, we're only running 2 Kimeramon. I would love to get him up more. Maybe possibly reduce the count of Devimons, but anytime I reduce the count, I end up seeing the what the card could have been in hand, and it frustrates me a lot, so I like to keep that count at 28. Kimeramon is a 5k Digimon, so I'm not necessarily a fan of him only being 5k, since he can obviously trade with Pitomons and etc. like that. However, there are a lot of times where being able to just Digivolve into him, it feels great, because generally the on-deletion inheritables that you have underneath him, you want to try to stack them so that they're always the ones that you want to prioritize at the time. Demi-Devi you typically want to get under a Dobermon or something, so it has a longer chance to live, potentially. Kimeramon, you generally want to get the on-deletion effects underneath that you want immediately. Alright, so that's it for the champions. Next up, we're going Megas and higher. You heard me right, we have level 7s. 4 Dandevimon, and 2 Zwart Defeat. The Dandevimon, like I said, is the whole reason why we're running this deck. It's a rush deck, and being able to cheat out a Dandevimon allows us to help us deal with more problematic Digimon on board, as well as produce counter lethals in the sense that the opponent may not feel the need, or the desire rather, to aggress as quickly, since Dandevimon will force them to lose a security every time you lose a security. And then you have Zwart Defeat. You can Digivolve on top of the Dandevimon to pop a Tamer, which feels great. You can also pop the Zwart Defeat with Demonic Disaster or Deathclaw to potentially pop 2 bodies or 1 body and get a restand on another guy. Unfortunately, Demonic Disaster only works on purple Digimon when it comes to restanding them, so you can't restand your Zwart Defeat. However, you can restand your Dandevimon and then go into Zwart Defeat afterwards, which feels great. And like I said, there are 10 security traps in this deck that help us produce counter-lethals at times. So, the Zwart Defeats are some of them. I would love to get it up to 4, but that would probably cause this deck to be a lot more bricky. And we're not necessarily a security control deck, so it may not feel as great, but I might consider a third one. Next up, we have 3 Night Raids, 2 Demonic Disasters, and 3 Deathclaws for our options. Originally, I was running 4 Night Raids, 2 Demonic Disasters, and 2 Deathclaws. I was just doing a lot of test drawing and everything. I wasn't too big of a fan of the Night Raids, and there were a lot of times I kind of wanted the Demonic Disasters in. However, Deathclaw is just too great of utility, and originally, when I was thinking this deck through, I wasn't actually running the Zwart Defeats. I was running some other cards in the slots that I will bring up shortly after I get through the rest of the deck list. But the Night Raids and the Demonic Disaster. So Night Raid basically says you can play a level 3 purple Digimon from your trash without paying its cost. It's on play, does not activate, unfortunately. So sorry, Tournament Pack Dandevimon, you do not get to trash 2 cards from the top of your deck when you bring it back from the trash. But Demonic Disaster has the Night Raid effect on security. So fret not, it's not a simple add to your hand. A lot of times you can get back your Demis, threaten a Dandevi on the next turn, or even just produce a counter lethal because your opponent ends up with unexpected bodies on the other side of the board that they weren't necessarily prepared for. Lastly, Deathclaw. Fantastic card to close out games, fantastic cards to stay on tempo so that your opponent can't build up tall, and also fantastic, absolutely fantastic card in security because they lose blockers whenever they attack into security, and this happens. So yeah, it's fantastic. Also, like I said before, being able to pop your Zwart Defeat to pop a blocker and then be able to pop literally anything else that would be on their board in a fantastic 2-for-1 after you've already swung with the Zwart Defeat, it's one of the most euphoric feelings in this game. 1-cost options are insane in purple. And then lastly, for Tamers, we just have 2 map. Getting choked at 1 repeatedly sucks. Especially when you're not playing a Rookie Rush deck that is optimized for Rookie Rush. Being able to be at 3 consistently will allow you to extend your plays a lot more, even though a lot of the plays in this deck are simply just 1 and 2 memory. But more importantly, being able to be at 2 is way more important than being at 3, just because a lot of the Digivolutions are 2 cost, and that allows us to extend our turns, but being at 3 means that we can perform something that allows us to make a 2-cost option, and then another 2-cost option to still choke the opponent at 1 if they do not have their memory tamer. Or even potentially make 3 options in 1 turn. Alright, so that's it for the list. Like the previous video, I unfortunately don't have any footage to provide with this. In addition, the combos that aren't really that different from a traditional Dandevi deck, so I figured I'd suggest some cards that you'd want to consider putting in this deck if you're not completely sold on the choices I've made. So, excuse me. To start out, we have BT2 Tapirmon from the 1.0 deck. He says, on deletion, draw 1 card. Always a fantastic option to run. I didn't end up including him in this deck because I thought that Gabumon was way important with the draw 2 trash 1. Allows you to have more options to fuel your trash for the Dandevi effect. So that's why I wasn't successful in finding any space really for him. And then up next we have the starter deck, Impmon. That is a 4-cost hard play, 0-cost evolve, 5k rookie. That's more in line with the ideal Rookie Rush type of Digimon that you would want in your deck. However, it would fall more in line with the Musyamon, where it's a 4-cost hard play, so it'd be fantastic when your opponent chokes you at 1 and they have a Memory Tamer on board. But it still feels bad to hard play, and generally you'd want to be Digivolving in the raising area. So that might necessarily go in the same direction as this deck desires. Next we have starter deck 6 Dracmon. The on play, you can add 1 purple option from your trash with a play cost of 1 or 7 to your hand. since we're running, what is it, I believe 5 1-cost purple option cards, you have plenty of targets to work with. If you're running something like Nailbone, which is actually the next card that I was going to suggest, or other purple option cards, then that would be a fantastic choice because you'd be able to recycle your options. Unfortunately, this is more like aggressive than value oriented, so if you're in a meta where you're expecting to draw things out and go in the long run against like a lot of security control based decks or other control style decks, that would be a fantastic option. Like I said, Nailbone was another option that I had considered when building this deck. That went in the same slot as Omnimon's Zwart Defeat, where it's something that activates and raising allows me to bring out a body from trash. So I'm still getting a body created from the opponent attacking in security, and also it'd be a great way to set up lethal situations for a 7-cost hard play from hand, where you can bring back a rookie and a champion. But it's a little expensive, so I ended up going against that and leaning more into Zwart Defeat ideas, especially since you can Digivolve on top of the Dandevimon. And then lastly, we have the BT5 Omnimon Zwart. That was the original thought that I was going to put with the Omnimon Zwart Defeat, being able to bring back 2 ultimates or rookie, it's literally anything that has a play cost of 8 or less, and almost everything but the Dandevis have that. So you'd be able to bring back Dobermons, Demidevimons that you can Digivolve on top of to bring back more Dandevis, recycle the Dandevi that you have in your hand. Generally, you want it to be in the trash, though. So a lot of times, it was more just about beefing up your security, punishing the opponent for attacking in, and I felt that was more necessary to actually get a body out, rather than simply just deleting the opponent's Digimon in battle. So that's it for the suggestions that I currently have in the BT5 format, but for those of you that might be interested in giving this a whirl in BT6 or even the EX01 format, here are some upgrades you can make to the deck. First off, we have the BT6 Sunamon that says once per turn, if you have discarded a card from your hand by an effect, you can draw 1 card. I think that's terrific, at least in replacement of the Pagumon, especially since a lot of the cards in BT6 have a higher power. That essentially, power creep is a big thing, and so the Digimon are far more likely to actually survive when attacking into security, so you'd be able to recycle that effect, or even cascade effects like Gabumon or Denimera on other Digimon, and being able to actually get additional draws from those effects. I'm not necessarily certain about replacing Demimera entirely and making the Sunamon the primary baby, but as a secondary baby, it might be better than Pagumon. Next up, we have the BT6 Elecmon that says, on deletion, delete one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon. This is a fantastic way to, while still maintain aggression, be able to control your opponent's board just a little bit so you can always have the upper hand in tempo. And it's a fantastic card if you want to cut down on the Demi-Devis, or the Devimon even, possibly run more rookies than champions. It allows you to still maintain an aggression while holding your opponent off, and yeah. Next up we have BT6 Boogiemon. Not Boogeyman, Boogiemon. And it's basically just an entire power creep of Dobermon, where instead of being 6 hard play, 2 to Digivolve 7k power, it actually is just 5 cost hard play. So unless there's a situation where you're playing against a black deck that has a removal card that says play cost of 5 or less, it's almost entirely better than Dobermon altogether. However, it might be best to run them in tandem and actually take out the Musiamons for the Boogiemons and have just high power the entire time instead of having to worry about jamming and praying that they don't have blockers on board. Next we have BT6 Ginkakumon Promote. He is a very, very powerful card that will be abused oh so heavily from BT6 onward, even in BT7. 2 cost to Digivolve on top of a rookie, but 1 cost to Digivolve on top of a champion, even though he is a champion himself. And he also says, on play, you may, if you have the Ginkakumon and Kinkakumon in your trash, you can put them under to get the draw 1, gain 1 memory. However, that's not what we're worried about. What we are worried about, however, is the rush effect. Being able to attack the turn the Digimon comes out is extremely powerful, especially when you call Night Raid a rookie Digimon, or in with one of the other cards I will be briefly mentioning, being able to bring out a champion and then Digivolve on top of it into a Ginkakumon promote if the promote is in your hand and hasn't been used yet. Very, very powerful card and very great way to finish games. Next we have BT6 Sora and Mimi. This card, I believe, is something you may want to consider if you're not too big of a fan of Mat and you maybe want to run one Mat, one Sora, and Mimi. It says at the start of your turn, if your opponent doesn't have a level 4 or lower Digimon, you gain 2 memory. So this could dissuade your opponent from actually Digivolving and building up a tall Digimon and maybe going more wide, so that they are unable to get as much tempo and you're able to still have Deathclaw targets. Also, it says when attacking with one of your purple Digimon, you can suspend it and actually draw one, trash one. So you'd be able to use that Tsunamon effect a lot more and take advantage of that. And also fuel the Devimons, see more of your deck. Fantastic card. Lastly, we have BT6 Underworld's Call for the BT6 cards that I would like to suggest. This is a 4-cost option card that says that you can play a level 4 or lower purple Digimon from your trash without paying its cost. What's very important about this compared to other purple effects up till now is that this one does not say your on-play effects don't activate. So that's extremely important. So for a Demi-Devi tournament pack, for instance, it would still be able to trash the top 2. If this is early on, it's the only target you have in trash. Fantastic. If you have Labramon, you can get the draw one, trash one. Great. Also, in addition, if this is a card that you necessarily don't want to feel like playing from your hand, it has an additional effect that says if you trash this card from your hand by an effect, draw 1, which is absolutely fantastic because it replenishes itself instantaneously and allows you to get more pluses off of those discard effects. Not to mention, its security effect is just to activate the main effect. Absolutely fantastic. It's basically Nailbone at that point with even more pluses because it gets the on-play effect. And that's it for the BT6. For the EX01, the only 2 recommendations I really have are Analog Boy and Demi-Devimon. The Demi-Devimon is a 3-cost, 2,000 power that basically just has retaliation as on a rookie, which is amazing. However, we won't be able to utilize it attacking into the opponent's Digimon simply because it states that if it does not have a Myotismon on board, then it's unable to attack opponent's Digimon. So mostly it'll just be crashing into security at that point. But it's fantastic if the opponent has a blocker and they're forced into a situation where they feel the need to block it. Also, Analog Boy is another card to consider. He's a 2-cost option, white tamer, that says on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, choose 1 Digimon among them to add to your hand, the rest goes to trash. Very important because you're able to actually choose what card you want to add amongst them and possibly send 2 Devimon to trash, which is basically the equivalent of the tournament pack Demi-Devimon. Not to mention, in the situations where you do get the Dandevi on board, or the Zwart Defeat, if you Deathclaw it or Demonic Disaster it, essentially pop it or it dies in security when attacking, you're able to immediately start rebuilding in your raising area by suspending the Analog Boy, gaining 1 memory, and having a little extra inch during your turn to be able to set up and potentially produce an actual lethal that the opponent may not be able to respond to. Anyways, that's it for the deck. I hope you enjoy this. I hope everyone has a fantastic Halloween. Hopefully this video actually comes out by the end of Halloween. But I'll be trying to put out more fun decks. I have some silly decks possibly to celebrate the announcement of the Jagras evolution or DNA Digivolution mechanic that has been released in BT8 and the new starter decks over in Japan. Just to take advantage of some fun packs that we may hold in Memorial. But anyways, I'll hopefully start streaming again eventually. But until next time, thank you all for watching. I'll see you later. And most importantly, stay fly.